This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Joining us today is Nick Tulloch, of course, the CEO of Mendell Helium. Nick, thank you very much for your time today. How are you doing?
Yeah, morning, Mark. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you, Nick. Very good. I don't know if we can just catch up. I know you're at NAPE. It's a big oil and gas expo in the United States. Just tell us a little bit about that event and why you were there.
Yeah, sure. I've known about NAPE for quite a few years, and you're right. It is certainly one of the biggest oil and gas events in the US. I mean, like most things in the US, it's just absolutely vast. I mean, the room it was held in was like, I don't know, sort of 6 or 7 aircraft hangars all sort of, fused into one. I'm told there's about 10,000 people there. We took a booth, as they call them, and presented ourselves to the masses of the Texan and US oil and gas industry. But yeah, really good experience, actually. It was very, very, very positive.
Oh, good. So, I mean, did you have lots of people coming by your booth and having a chat? I mean, what kind of vibe did you get for, I guess, the appetite, first of all, for investing in oil and gas companies, but also, of course, the appetite amongst investors for particularly Mendell?
Well, I mean, the vibe was great. I mean, what I really like about America at the moment is there's just a huge swell of optimism. And NAPE had a catchphrase, their little hashtag was "where deals happen," which beforehand I sort of chuckled a little bit about. But actually, when I got there, I kind of understood it. People were actively looking for opportunities. And when you do a trade fair in the UK, people come along, they take the leaflet, they take the freebie, and they say a couple of nice things and then walk away. The conversations we were having were, I mean, initially almost uncomfortable for me, that people were staying and talking for about sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, really in-depth conversation about what we were doing, who we were, the opportunities we had. And I got into the flow fairly quickly, but just very alien to how how it would operate over here. And the companies we were meeting would range from sort of little sort of family companies operating onshore in, I don't know, Texas or Oklahoma, through to national companies. I mean, one of the companies we spoke to has a market cap of $140 billion. Okay. And it was a real range of different businesses with different ideas, but just an overwhelming positive experience. We were one of 2 helium companies in the vast, vast room, but we were the only helium company producing helium. So straight away, that gave us a good leg up in terms of the attention we got.
So you're saying you were talking to sort of national institutions there, but also family offices. Any private investors there as well, or was it more a company and institution event?
Yeah, no, a total mix. I mean, there were a few individuals. There were sort of graduates. There's a as well as the main event, there's a whole series of fringe events, and one of the fringe events is a job fair. So if you're a US company looking to hire people, you can present yourself to prospective employees. So we did talk to a couple of graduates. We talked to a couple of people who were there on their own. But I would say the main body of people were businesses, mostly operating onshore US. And okay. As I say, going from small to medium to enormous. So Mendell Helium was presenting, but so was Chevron and BP were there. Right. But equally, there was a whole string of companies that I was not familiar with. So a real cross section. And the other nice thing is there were a whole series of events. I mean, there were drinks parties in the evenings. I mean, I was told beforehand that all the deals got done at the Four Seasons bar late in the evening after the event, and I think that's probably true. We went along and we probably had some of our best conversations in the in the parties afterwards. So I mean, it was 3 days of endurance, but really positive.
Okay, good. Well, let's talk about some of the positives that come out of it. Then you say it was somewhere where they say that deals are done. So, of course, Mendell is UK listed. Maybe it's a little bit harder for investors in the United States or North America to invest. So, I mean, just thinking about how you can sort of crystallize some of those perhaps interesting conversations. I think before, did we talk about when you can perhaps look to bring on a new well that you can actually partner with almost locals? I think that was something we were talking about. Yeah, so there's that angle, but also maybe a North American listing.
Well, it's really more the former, and we've already drilled one well where we took in some private money who then earned a stake in that well. and that's very common in the US. People do talk about taking shares. I mean, they deal in the old systems. They talk about eighths, 1/8 or 3/8 of a well. It's just the way it's done over there. So that's a fairly sort of well-trodden path. And we have, through our farming with Scout, an acreage that, with the best one in the world, we are not going to drill out on our own. 161,000 acres, up to 200 wells. That is, we're blessed with a big opportunity, but it's just not an opportunity we're going to fulfill ourselves. And this was very much the angle we took at Nape, which is, we have a proven plan. The Nilson well has proven that production can be far higher on the eastern edge of the Hugoton field, so the transition zone, as we call it. There's a element of water that has to be pumped off, but actually it clears fairly quickly. And this is a new way of drilling in the Hugoton. And now we have the acreage to back it up. So that was our pitch, that we've proven a pathway. We've got the acreage. We've got the support of Scout. We've got 100% offtake. Everything we produce goes straight into Scout, into their Jayhawk plant. We're not having to purify anything at the wellhead. So we literally connect our wellhead through to Scout's gathering system. So everything that comes out of the ground goes straight to Scout, and then they separate it and pay us at the end of the month for what we sent them. And that was the pitch, and it played really well. And as I say, the majority of the conversations are with other onshore US companies, but there were some interesting conversations with some, well, I'll call them majors. I say the single most exciting conversation, just because size matters. The single most exciting conversation was with a company worth 140 billion. They came to see us in the morning, and then the lady we spoke to actually came back in the afternoon with her boss to talk in a bit more detail. So we were absolutely buzzing. I was there with Paul Mendell. We were absolutely buzzing when the when the event was over. Pretty tired, but the conversations, I don't think, could have gone any better in terms of how we played it.
Interesting. So does this mean then that perhaps when Mendell is ready to expand and perhaps look at drilling new wells in the field here, that you've got a few numbers you can tap up now?
Well, I think so. I came away with sort of a couple of inches of business cards, and probably gave away a couple of inches of business cards, and we were handing out leaflets as well as to what we were doing. But there's a different angle in the US. I think small cap resource companies in the UK are conditioned that if you want to drill or you want to do something, you raise money in the equity markets, you spend that money in the ground, hopefully it works, you come back and raise more money. That's an avenue that's open to us, but there's also the US network of partnering, and there are people with ideas, there are people with drilling contractors, their own rigs, their own land, most importantly, funding. So there's an interesting additional dimension I think we can work with, where we would partner with a company, and if we have 200 wells to drill, it's not a bad position if we end up with a minority percentage of 200 wells working with a much bigger partner who's got the ability to drill them out at a speed that just being candid, we could not do as a small company. So it's a partner with someone bigger, and they would then use our technology and our acreage and our plans. I think that's a very exciting, and having had the conversations last week, a very realistic outcome.
Okay, good. Well, just if we can finish off with a bit of just a quick update on how things are going on, indeed, the current flows of helium from the producing wells there, and indeed just give us a sense of where you're focusing your efforts for the rest of quarter one.
Yeah, well, in terms of current flows, across all our wells, we're doing around about 200 MCF a day. Now, our helium concentrations tend to be below 1%, so we're doing in excess of 1 MCF of helium per day. There's lots of different prices that sort of scatter around the market in terms of what helium is worth. But I guess if I say we're making several $100 per day just on the helium alone, we also earn sales from NGLs and also from methane. Our strategy is unchanged from really over the last few months. We've been just so impressed with how the Nilson well has done. The Nilson well had an element of experimental activity around it in terms of this was the first big frack that was done in the Hugoton field for quite some time. And you do it and you sort of hold your breath, see how it's going to work. And as we've reported previously, production on the Nilson has grown quite substantially since that frack. The water levels are coming off. In other words, the cost of pumping the water or removing the water is reducing, the production level is rising, so the well is becoming. I mean, the well is profitable, on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that's what you want. And then the next step is, well, if you can do it once, do it twice, then do it 10 times, then do it 75 times. And again, that's what the logic was back in Nape. The other opportunity is Rost. This is our sort of fast and furious well, 5.1% helium. It'll have a shorter life, we think. I mean, the Hugoton wells typically last decades. We think Rost will be a shorter life, but it's very high pressure, very high helium content, and very cost effective to get into production. Whereas we could repeat the Nilson well, literally hundreds of times over. Rost is probably more like a sort of 3-well, 5-well play, but would produce very quickly and very successfully. So we've got quite a few opportunities to go for.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much for the update, Nick. So I'm sure we'll be speaking, towards the end of Q1 to see how things are going generally. But for now, thank you very much for your time.
Terrific. Thank you, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.